Firstly, I'd like to say an absolutely massive thank you for having me this evening. I don't think in my career I'll ever come up against the fabulous Charles Lamanna ever again. So
quite conflict. Apologies.
No, don't worry about it at all. Don't worry about it at all. So I'm delighted to be here and also delighted to be part of VPG. You're doing so much fantastic things for the community, and I'm really delighted that all these night classes are going on, and actually some of those I really am going to jump on, because all of those areas I need to improve. So really excited about when you come back off holiday, Paddy, and we can start learning about collections. Cool. So just to give you a bit of a background about me, so I am fairly new to Microsoft. I've been there, I think this is kind of like the mid of my 10th month. I feel like I've only been there 5 minutes, and then I feel like I've been there a lifetime, but I've spent my entire career in business applications in the Power Platform. So I started working for a small business, specialising in projects for small to medium-sized businesses on Dynamics 365. I have experience from version 4 onwards, so fairly historical. I mean, when I think back to that time, I just think I can't believe the amount of capability that we have these days compared to what we had then. But yeah, I've always been involved in the Power Platform from the moment of its inception, when it was Project Sienna, and now I have the absolute pleasure of being the lead for the ISV programme here in the UK for Microsoft. So it's really my job to either encourage or enhance or help support partners or companies that are looking to build their solutions on business applications, so Dynamics 365 or the Power Platform, or integrate into them. So I'm a huge ambassador for how the Power Platform can be a real change for good, and how it can help organisations, be it customers who are looking to scale capability within their enterprise scale organisation, or customers that are looking to kind of build their capability and repeat it elsewhere. Feel free to hit me up on my email address, or catch me on Twitter. I spend quite a lot of time on there, like Claire, sending potentially inappropriate GIFs or links or whatever. But I'm absolutely delighted to be here. So without further ado, what we're going to cover off today. So you've probably heard from our big announcement at Inspire that we've spent quite a bit of time investing heavily in bringing our Power Platform capability into the hands of everyone within Microsoft Teams. And the big announcement from Inspire we will cover off, just to make sure that you're all kind of up to speed. But as we speak, many of these announcements are being updated and formalized officially at Ignite. So A, thanks for sticking with us, and B, hopefully we'll cover off so you don't feel like you're missing out too much from Ignite itself. I'm then going to give a whistle-stop tour of all of the pertinent updates from every single first-party functional area that we cover with our Dynamics 365 stack. So starting with sales and marketing, moving on to customer service and field service, and then I'm going to do a bit of a whistle-stop on ERP, Dynamics 365 for commerce, and also project operations, because these all kind of fit in our ERP space, which is by no means my area of expertise, but something that I'm equally as passionate about as CRM or CE and the Power Platform. And then I'm going to leave plenty of time at the end for summary and questions, because I appreciate that with all these announcements, you know, actually they can be quite, I guess, bamboozling for individuals. So I want to make sure that we have enough time to cover them. So in terms of the announcement from Inspire, I'm sure you'll all be cognizant of the fact that we have spent as an organisation the last kind of 18 months to 2 years really heavily investing in the Power Platform, to include as much of the capability as we possibly can to ensure that we democratize the capability. And I suppose that really comes in kind of 5 key focus areas. So firstly, we have the desire to bridge the gap between the digital and the physical world. So when we talk about field service and some of the releases and the capabilities that are coming with our remote assist and some of our virtual reality editions, that really is trying to sort of encompass that. But more importantly, within the Power Platform, we've also given our users the capability to do 3D visualization directly within some of the Power Platform or the Power Apps that you're building. So we've seen some excellent examples of this already being used, even even in some of the hackathons that we've been running. So for example, the MBAS hackathon that we ran at the start of May, one team submitted a solution that was trying to encompass problems faced by COVID, where they were kind of building a 3D visualization of a field hospital based on some of the demand that was coming out of there. So if I could urge you to go and look at anything tonight, I would really urge you to go and look at the preview of some of our virtual reality capabilities within the Power Platform, because they are hugely powerful, and something that, you know, if there's one of those projects that you want to play with at night, that's probably one of the really good ones to get going with and start to build in those extra components within your Power Platform solutions or environments. We're then focusing hugely on AI and trying to bring in as democratized an AI capability as we possibly can. So you may already be familiar with our AI Builder component within the Power Platform, giving you the capability to build your own AI models across 4 different focus areas. So object recognition, textual recognition, forms, and sentiment analysis. And so bringing that into the Power Platform to give you that no-code AI capability really is one of our key focus areas. Obviously, actually, our Wave 2 release plans were already in motion before, you know, this unprecedented global pandemic hit our shores, and a really big focus for us was all around remote work. So you'll see a word in here that begins with D that we're going to talk about particularly with this this Ignite launch, and Dataflex is designed really, or was designed with its original name, to put low code, no code solutions in the hands of the users where we know that they are predominantly. So for those of you that aren't aware, Dataflex is essentially Power Apps for Teams. So giving every Teams environment the capability to build its own Power App solution right in the hands of that team. And as many of you will be aware, as we released that solution, the organisation that previously owned the name Dataflex took umbrage. So we quite quickly retreated back to Project Oakdale, which it has remained, but it's actually being launched at Ignite this week, the new name for Dataflex. But essentially it's Power Apps for Teams. So really quite interesting, and I think for us, if we're thinking about building our careers within the Power Platform or Dynamics 365, or even some of how the release wave cycles will affect our organisations or the partners organisations that we work for, this for me feels like a pivotal transition moment where we're going to really have to start thinking about architecting our solutions to fit not within licensing, but within capability that our licensing provides us. So we'll cover that off in a little bit further on. We've also made quite a few updates to bringing our Power Platform or our Power Platform capability together. So for example, we're bringing in things like Power BI Direct Query directly into the Power Platform, which is something that I know that many of our Power BI experts have been heavily waiting for. And I think a topic that's very, very close to my mind is governance, and making sure that with this low code, no code solution that we know can really have the power to drive evolution and digital transformation within a business. We do have to make sure that it's done in a sustainable way, and we're not just building technical debt and making multiple data sources and causing potential problems. So for me, some of the launches that come out of the governance release or the government's announcements that we've made are really, really important. Things that are going to be announced at Ignite are very, very powerful from that respect. And then finally, hyper automation. So you probably are all very aware that we made an acquisition some time ago now of Softmotive to provide us with both offline and online RPA capability, or robotic process automation, to provide us with that kind of that real automation on and offline, or assisted and non-assisted. And that for me is massively powerful for if you're in an organisation or you're working with organisations where rapid digital transformation just simply isn't possible, or you've got legacy physical on-premise solutions that you cannot get online. This Win automation, this RPA capability that we've now brought online as part of our Power Automate offering is hugely important to our stack. But in terms of what we're all really keen to hear about, our integration of Power Apps into Teams, as we launched back at Inspire as Dataflex, it's really important that we take this into consideration. So we're arming users directly with an environment of Power Platform, Power Apps, within their team's environments. And yes, there are some differences. Obviously, Power Apps within teams, or Power Apps for Teams, or data Project Oakdale, as it's being known temporarily, is certainly a game changer from the respect of where you consider architecting your solutions. Is it something that you should be building in Project Oakdale, or is it something you should be building in traditional CDS, model driven, or the more traditional Power Platform? And so I'd really urge you to consider where each of those solutions might sit, or where you might choose to build your solution. Feel free to reach out to me directly, because I've got quite a nice slide that kind of details where one solution really wins out over the other. And also, do bear in mind that there are migration paths. So if you find that you've built something in Project Oakdale and actually you need to expand it out into other teams, or you've reached the record limit or the data storage limit, there are ways of kind of migrating from one solution to the other. But I think from a comparison to SharePoint or Microsoft Lists, Project Oakdale really kind of rocks that boat and allows us to arm people with the capability within their environment that they're already working in within Microsoft Teams. Hugely powerful and massively relational, so we're not building kind of flat data sources, and it's all there. So I suppose, in short, this is yet an additional add-on to the already powerful Power Platform capability that we already have, and we'll soon, as you can see from my quite hastily built animations, that we will be launching the rename. Cool. And I suppose the other release that's pretty pivotal from a Project Oakdale Power Platform for Teams solution is that we are releasing it within specific geographies initially. It is going GA, and as you'll see from Twitter, Ryan Jones announced it just today, and Chris Huntingford has posted tweets today. It has gone general availability. But for those of you that are perhaps outside of some of the regions that are supported, do feel free to grab this link, and you'll see where the geographic availability for Project Oakdale and some of the Power Apps capability has been launched. Cool. So now we've got the whole Project Oakdale Dataflex, CDS, etc. conversation out of the way. I'm going to split the rest of the session into these 5 key areas, and that is a bit of a whistle stop because we've got a lot to cover in a short period of time. But I will leave you with some links that you can go off and kind of read a bit up on this a little bit more in a bit detail. So first off, the traditional CRM environment, the Dynamics 365 for CE or for sales, as you may or may not be familiar with it. There are a whole suite of capabilities that have been released as part of Wave 2, but the 3 key elements that I'd like to focus on are really around our new mobile experience. For some of you that have been part of Dynamics 365 for CRM or CE for a long time, you'll know that perhaps our mobile experience doesn't win out to that of our competitors. We have taken on board that feedback. We understand that. We know, COVID aside, how important the mobile experience is to our users. And so we're really committing to offering a much more intuitive mobile experience and essentially a responsive experience, which for me I think is important, particularly when we consider the on and the offline capability. We don't know where our users are going to be working. We don't know if their connectivity is going to be strong enough. So this really helps our sellers focus in on what they're selling and give them that insight right in the palm of their hand. We're also adding an element of gamification to our forecasting. So exactly what all salespeople want, that ability to sort of benchmark themselves against their team members and really drive that. And for some of you that are sort of are not new to the world of CRM, gamification has been an important part of our organisation for a long time. We made a couple of acquisitions, and now this is really being sort of merged into our kind of active releases. And then we have made a whole bunch of usability enhancements, obviously with the release of the unified user interface that many of you will have migrated over to. That's made quite a revolutionary change to the way that your users experience CE or Dynamics 365 for sales. And so we've brought on board some of the functionality that you and the requests that you've put via our ideas forum. And then I've put 2 products in the top right corner that I just think are really worth you guys bearing in mind. So we are due to go GA with our sales insights and our product visualize capability, not dissimilar to that of our customer insights capability, essentially an area that allows us democratized AI. So it ingests data from multiple sources, not just Dynamics 365 for sales, but all sorts of different areas in order to demonstrate insight based on that data. to make actionable insights out the back of that. And actually during Ignite over the next couple of days, we're going to subtly rebrand this, so watch out for that. So if you're using customer insights, if you're using sales insights or our product visualize capability, do listen out for some of those updates coming up over the next day or two. So moving on, I know there's a huge amount, particularly in Scotland, actually. I know Diliana is very passionate about Dynamics 365 for marketing, but there has been a huge investment in delivering more capability to our D365 for marketing solution. And I think that's for a number of different reasons. Obviously, there's a huge demand for the product. Many of our clients require the capability to do automated marketing. We have many ISVs in the space that are able to support us, but many of our customers look to us to be the leader in functionality. And so for Dynamics 365 for marketing, I've actually put in quite detailed links to the updates that we're releasing as part of Wave 2. And I think for me, some of the key points that we've been perhaps lacking in compared to our competitors or ISVs in that space are the ability to create things like customized segmented emails. So bringing in personalized data based on what we know about the contact on the common data service, and being able to create targeted segments. So there's always been the capability to build dynamic or static segments or like marketing list style lists of data, but this really allows us to use natural language to create those. We've got in-place editing for emails and forms, which is always nice, but also building the customer journeys has become even easier using our Canvas experience. So for those of you that are familiar with D365 marketing, you will notice this rapidly improve in terms of its usability. And a whole bunch of other things like the ability to run webinars and meetings using Microsoft Teams as part of our events management capability, which, as we all know, is massively vital in today's COVID day and age. So I will leave you with these links, and when we share this presentation later, they take you to that direct space within each of the release wave plans. Now, what I've just done is I've also just put in a link here to where we feel the entirety of the Dynamics 365 stack sits alongside key workloads within your organization. And the reason I do this is I just think this is a really nice picture of where everything is and how it all connects. And a couple of the other things that you might just want to bear in mind is where we've got things like customer service insights that have been brought into the stack that leverage some of our democratized AI capability directly within with the lens of customer service. But I just think it's quite nice, and feel free to take a snap of this because it's quite nice to tell the story along of our first party applications alongside the capability of our Power Platform that perhaps fills in some of the industry aligned functionality gaps that our products don't provide themselves. So moving on, Dynamics 365 for customer service, one of our more mature products on the stack, has had a whole bunch of releases this wave, and actually again as part of Ignite is going to experience even more releases. They're actually really quite game changing. So firstly, we've got agent productivity. So they will, as of this release, be able to hold multiple sessions, enabling them to run perhaps chat as well as voice and maybe other channels that they've integrated into the omnichannel integration framework or the channel integration framework or the CIF, all within the same window. So you're able to handle more at once. We've enhanced extensibility, so we can integrate into mobile apps or any additional channel that your organisation or your customer's organisation uses to provide outbound messaging, and integrate into our bot framework. And for those of you that might be listening to Ignite, we're also announcing really quite big integrations between the virtual assistant and the bot framework. So if you found that you've reached a cliff with your virtual agent bot, and you would like to have taken advantage of the bot framework, then you'll notice that that also starts to come in as we start to make those releases. And as I mentioned earlier, we've also got those integrated insights through customer service insights as well. And that really kind of, for those of you that have sort of seen and heard the buzz around AI and it being more democratized and more available to our users, we're noticing this is actually, something that's being brought into their everyday lives, where we've seen things like the relationship assistant in the past surface things to us on our dashboard at the time we need it. Even more of that capability is being brought into customer service. From a field service perspective, not dissimilar to that of customer service, we're seeing even more integration with the Insights product. We're seeing more proactive service delivery, so with integration into supply chain management as part of our ERP capability. It allows you to do this kind of hierarchical things within assets. So, you've got, for example, a housing association with a property with 4 floors, and we're having to service, a certain fire extinguisher on a certain floor. We're able to create that hierarchy where we otherwise couldn't do. So it's really allowing us to zero in on the right place at the right time. Now, we will obviously have a very capable scheduling or resource scheduling optimization solution, and we've increased the functionality of that to do manual sort of multi-day scheduling and optimize the kind of predictive travel time. So that's just sort of incrementally increasing in terms of its improvements. And then we've even got some more, like with our CRM or off Dynamics 365 for sales capability, we're increasing the mobile functionality of our solution. So we know where our technicians are, and we can extend that capability with the Power Platform should we need to. So moving on to the F&O side of things. Now, I will admit, as I said at the start of the session, that F&O isn't my topic of choice, but my colleague Kayla Bloomfeld kindly put these slides together. So there's a whole bunch of integrations that have been announced. One I would highlight is the Dataflex Pro integration, i.e. the Common Data Service integration, which we have been eagerly awaiting for a long time to allow us that consistent customer journey all the way from sales all the way through to the end of the journey, but also integration into the likes of Dynamics 365 for commerce and project operations, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later on. So I would encourage you to take a little snap of this if this is relevant to you, because many of these topics are going to be talked about as part of Ignite over the next coming 24 hours. From a human resources perspective, we're adding team self-service, which is absolutely brilliant. So bringing more and more capability into Microsoft Teams, as you would expect. It's going general availability as part of this wave, and there are additional enhancements as well. We've got integration into Data Lake Gen 2, which means far more to more technical people than me, but ultimately it means we can apply more analytics, more insight onto that data that we hold within HR. We're integrating into AAD, so for that single sign-on experience, into Outlook, as I would hope you anticipate, for the tracking of time entries, etc., as well as our other D365 apps. So I think ultimately what we're seeing with our Dynamics 365 HR capability is really kind of the settle since the sunset of Dynamics 365 for talent that some of you might be familiar with. Dynamics 365 for HR is very much settling into understanding, what it's offering. And finally, I think that integration into CDS entities such as skills, certificates, performance, benefits that allow us to give that consistent user journey from start to finish. Right, and finally, we have our Power Apps and Power Automate and Power Virtual Agent updates. Now, there were a huge amount, as you can imagine, updates to the Wave 2 releases. So I have carefully plucked the top 4 capabilities that I feel you might get most benefit from. So firstly, Power Virtual Agents, or PVA, is now a component as part of the Power Apps Portal Studio. Woohoo, something we have been eagerly awaiting, and something that I feel is really going to get adopted at an absolute rate of knots. The Power Apps Component Framework control will have support in Power Apps Portals. So really interesting to hear from Claire that you've had such a high uptake on the Power Apps Portals piece, because having experience in that space, every single project seems to touch Power Apps Portals at some point or another. So just enhancing that capability with our out-of-the-box bot framework seems really quite a powerful move from our perspective. I've put loads of new RPA capabilities in Power Automate. I briefly touched on this earlier, and I would urge you to look at and try and download and the preview program for the RPA capability for both attending and non-attended access. Really powerful. And also the Power Automate visual is now available in Power BI, which has been long awaited and one of those ideas that's been on the ideas site for a long time. So I'm delighted that's been launched. So again, just to summarize, I'm just leaving you with our kind of overarching value proposition from a Power Platform perspective of integrating our 4 key Power Platform solutions into the extensibility of Azure, for example, into Office 365 for our day-to-day work, and indeed even to our first-party applications of Dynamics 365, underpinned by, this slide is slightly out of date, we've now got over 350 data connectors. We've got the extensibility of AI Builder, that secure, extendable, enterprise grade, secure, governed CDS environment that we all know and love, and layering that to our users with Power Portals. And for those solutions that don't exist in the cloud or cannot be replicated, we have our robotic process automation, all underpinned by enterprise-wide security and governance. And for those of you that are having perhaps that conversation around governing the Power Platform within your organisation or your customers' organisations, I would urge you to take a look at the Power Platform Adoption Framework, which is something that I and a bunch of other individuals from the community, Andrew Welsh, Lee Baker, Manuela Pilcher and Keith Watling, have been working on to build essentially a set of guardrails for organisations considering the Power Platform but are nervous about it. It really provides that kind of that structure, that guidance, the almost like the war scars of how and why you should deliver the Power Platform to an organisation the way you should. And then finally, as of about, I don't know, an hour or so ago, we did also release our new icons for the Power Platform. So Chris Huntingford, if you're listening to this, I hope you're getting an updated tattoo. Everyone loves a new icon or a new logo, and these are the new logos that we have been provided with, so delighted. And finally, I just wanted to leave you with a direct link to the Wave 2 release plans for the October or this Wave release, just so that you can dive into a little bit more detail on what this Wave means to you. In the meantime, however, do feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Twitter, even via my email. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. But with that, I shall leave you with the feedback slide. Claire, thank you so much for inviting me on tonight's session. I was delighted to be able to join you.